Hello, everybody. This is the Two Old Bucks on episode 190. Every episode is a milestone. This is Old Buck Dell, and with me is
Old Buck Dave, back again. This time,
uh,
I hope my microphone works this week. I had a little problem last week.
as a podcast crew. We probably have the most erratic, not erratic. I don't know. Maybe that's the right word.
Maybe it
But
is.
some days we're eating sandwiches when we're doing this. I mean, it's like we're just, you never know. You never know what you're going to hear when you turn into
Hmm.
the Old Bucks. So.
Unholy. It's unholy, maybe. Ay.
So what do you want to talk about there, buddy?
Hey, I thought we'd start off this week talking about D-Day. June
Hmm.
6th was the 80th anniversary of D-Day, turning point of World War II in Europe, according to many, 1944. So, there's only a few vets left now who were there, who were actually there at D-Day. Keep slipping away. I watched a 99-year-old guy interview on TV. He was 19 when he stormed the beaches of D-Day. Scared as hell, as well he should be.
You would think we had learned our lesson from that.
But no, but
Um,
no,
could
no,
easily occur again, Lee.
could easily
Yeah.
occur again.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm fascinated with the D-Day thing. I've seen all the, Private Ryan
uh-huh, yeah.
and uh and of
I,
course even though seeing that stuff, you can't fathom what it would be there. Only those guys that actually were there could tell you. So
yeah, well, I was lucky enough to go there a couple of years ago. I don't know if I mentioned this before or not. Anyway, we uh, visited the Normandy beachheads, did an all-day tour there. It was really an excellent tour. The guys really were historically on top of everything, and it was just incredible, just sobering to see what these 19, 20-year-old kids did here. You know, the day we were there. The guy said, today is much like uh, June 6th, 44, because it was dreary, it was overcast, the winds were blowing, it was raining off and on. This is what they were facing here. Most of the boats were did not land where they were supposed to land because of the weather. They were all pushed, and of course the Americans, the Brits, and the Canadians, three different contingents, all had maps made out for the area where they were supposed to go in, and of course they were all got pushed away, and their maps were no good to them once they got on the shore. They couldn't find the landmarks that were on the maps, so that added to the confusion. The Canadians were the only one that actually achieved their objective on time, on schedule. So you're landing in the wrong place. You got bad maps. You're taking fire. Guys dying all around you. It was really chaos. But we were really lucky because they have a special VIP area roped off there, and there was actually a veteran there that day, and they drove him up in a big limousine and took him to the roped off area, and they had a little ceremony there for him, which was really nice. And I got to talk to him afterwards. I got to shake his hand, and I'll tell you, I get choked up now just thinking about it.
well, I could see some pictures. They must have preserved like a walking portion of those bunkers or something that looked pretty like some of them
Yes.
were still intact. Everything that were beat up and everything. And I think they've taken all the armorers out of there. Or the
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We went to at least one bunker, a German bunker there with had a big heavy artillery gun in there that had been taken a direct hit and blasted apart, and it was just left the way it was, all mangled in there. And of course, certainly no survivors. It was really a sobering day. If anybody gets a chance to go to Normandy and do the all day tour, I highly recommend it. It really puts things into perspective for you.
and it is a walking tour, obviously, and you were able to go by some of those cemeteries, which I assume are nearby.
It was walking and driving. We were in like a minivan. I think there were probably
Oh,
six of us in the group or something like that. And we went from location to location. We covered a lot of territory. Yeah, we did go. We went to the cemetery. Uh, several different beach heads. Went to a museum, a couple museums there. Went to a church there that had a hole in its roof where a shell came through, and the shell didn't go off, and the shell was still lying there. I think it was still lying there anyway. Yeah, you could still see they were using that church as a kind of a Red Cross first aid area, and the pews were still blood stained. They never
Oh my.
never took the blood off the pews. Yeah, so it's quite a reminder, quite a sobering experience.
I don't know, no matter when I see it, when you see all those neatly row after row of uh, crosses, or the symbols that they
Yeah,
you see so many of them, and you say, "Oh my!" Every
yeah,
one of them represented an individual, and
yeah.
there they are, all 9,000 of
Yeah.
them. Wow! Thank you for those guys that were called to duty and did it.
Stepped up and did it. Yeah, thanks
Hmm.
to them. Greatest generation.
Yeah, and I guess there's less and less of them. There's only 60 on this excursion. Well, so congratulations to that. And what else is on your thoughts today?
What else on my thoughts? Well, I would like to also note that the Boeing Starliner finally launched this week. Took their Launched their crew of two up to the International Space Station. 7 years behind schedule. Good news is no doors fell off. That's supposed to be a joke. That's
Yeah.
yeah. It just wasn't a very good one. Okay.
Well, what surprises me is if the opposing company, the competition is
SpaceX.
running up and down. The SpaceX is running up and down there like it was a Uber ride or something,
Yeah.
and you think, well, surely they would maybe share one little tip about how to make this successful.
Surely
But
not. Come on. Surely not.
obviously they didn't.
Methinks.
But so they made it up there, and now we have a second alternative. And these was there any hiccups at all? I mean, I wasn't.
Well, yeah. I
I
mean,
didn't see
the
it.
launch was postponed several times due to helium leaks and things like that. And they finally did the launch with the helium leak. They said it wasn't a big leak, so they did that. And they actually had some trouble docking with the International Space Station. Their retro rockets, the control rockets, several of them malfunctioned. So they had to do an extra orbit. They got very close to the space station, but they couldn't maneuver in properly. So they had to do another orbit while they kind of got enough of the control rockets to work. But they finally did get docked, and it was cute watching it on the news here. The female astronaut got in first, and she got through there, and she was jumping and dancing, and they were all hugging each other. It was nice to see that. It was cute. It was cute.
Well, I'm glad I saw that portion. I'm glad they make it. But I see they still use that gumdrop or something design for these capsules, and they use the gravity reentry system. And I'm surprised they haven't, come up with a more winged vehicle. Or I'm really surprised that they haven't just attached a whole bunch of them together. Do you know what I mean? Like go up with one and attach it to another until they had a whole string of them where they could
Come down like a train.
no, go out further. Go on a further mission. The Every time they send one up, they send it up two people. They can come back in another one capsule, and they can leave that capsule there and
Right.
start attaching them together, and
Hmm.
maybe go a little further into space. So, but I'm not in control of any of that stuff. I'm
You are
only
not in
only a
control.
bystander.
You are.
The ifs and shouldas are left to somebody get above my pay grade. So,
Yeah. Well, Boeing said they're going to complete their contract through the end of the decade, and then they're going to decide whether to continue the project. It is a private project. Of course, they've had tons of delays. They're like 1.5 billion over budget. So who's to say whether they're going to actually be the competition in 10 years? I don't know.
Well, we'll see. But I think that there's got to be some kind of a way station maybe up there, and then from there they refuel and head for the moon or um, maybe Mars.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I mean, Mars is the big target. That's NASA's big target. I think they want to establish a base on the moon first, and I think go to Mars from the moon. But I'm not sure. But I'll tell you, I did go down the rabbit hole here once I once I read this, saw the Boeing article. So I was reading Axios, which is one of the news feeds I get. So there's some interesting numbers here. Take a guess for how many satellites were launched in 2023.
No, we're talking all that would include all of the clusters of the Starlink satellites and that
Yep,
kind of thing.
yep. Number of satellites,
I'm going to say several hundred.
several hundred. You are not close. 2,877. Isn't that amazing? I had no idea it was that many.
Uh, I'm what surprises me is the amount of stuff we're putting up there, inclusive the stuff that we're abandoning up there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they keep talking about that. I don't see how they keep avoiding all those things. I mean, I guess they're in certain elevations, and somebody else launches a little further out or a little further out or something, but they still have to fly through all that stuff. So
Yeah. Well, one of the points it made was that the Starlink satellites had to maneuver to avoid collisions 25,000 times over a 6 month period. 25,000 in 6 months. So yeah, it is getting a little bit crowded up there, believe it or not. There's almost 13,000 satellites in orbit right now. 13,000. It's amazing.
well, in our lifetime, we've seen some interesting technological advances.
Yeah, yeah.
It came slowly, then they started just getting more and more and more.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. It's like, I think it said 91% of the satellites are in low Earth orbit, and nearly 80% of those of all satellites are dedicated to communication. Of course,
I,
the other ones are the geosynchronous orbit satellites that are up much higher.
after all that travel and reading more about what holds the universe together, what is the dark matter? I think what they refer
Dark
to.
matter and dark energy. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody seems to have stuck a mayonnaise jar out and I
You're
mean,
still
why don't they bring back a jar full of it
bring
and see
back a
what's
jar full. You're sticking with your mayonnaise jar
I am. It's a
theory, aren't you?
simple solution. Here we have a
This is a simple
jar full of
solution.
dark
Yeah.
matter. Well, it looks pretty clear when you get home, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Hey,
Let me
hey,
give you some more geeky statistics here before we
before we
move
get
on.
down to Earth,
Before we get down to Earth, yeah. There are over 3,300 satellites that are inactive. They're just basically getting in the way up there. 3,300. At the end of
what
2023, there were 508 satellites in a graveyard orbit beyond the geosynchronous orbit. That's one of the things they do. When they're ready to croak, they push them way out there. They either bring them back to Earth or push them way out there or let them get in the way. This is another thing that boggled me. Space insurers. There are people that insure all this stuff. They took in about 557 million in premiums last year and paid out $995 million in losses. So it doesn't seem like it's a real good business for the insurance companies at this point.
it never occurred to me that they even do that. I thought it was just you take your chances on it, but they actually somebody's. Well, that's the American way. They'll bet on it. They'll insure it. There's always an odds against it.
Yeah. A friend of my son's is a lawyer, and his specialty is space law. When my son first told me that space law, I thought he was joking. I thought he was just joshing. I said, "Come on." He says, "No, no, it's a real thing." He says, "It's a real thing. Bryce is a space lawyer." And since then, of course, it's like, once you get a red car, every car out there's red. But I keep
Yeah.
seeing these articles about space law. And yeah, it's a real thing. There's a lot of controversies. Whose fault is it? Who did this? Who owns this? It's kind of interesting. It's a real thing.
So
Believe it or not.
So they frown upon like was it China or somebody that blew up one of their own satellites and
Oh yeah,
the
that was
debris went every which way and all that.
yeah,
And they say, hey, you can't do that,
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. My son worked a couple years, well, a number of years back now, I guess, on the Space Fence project, which is the system of satellites that tracks all the space debris around the world. And he was involved in upgrading installations in Marshall Islands and Western Australia. And so there is a system in place that's tracking all these things, and it's amazing. It can track pieces just a couple inches across, but there's a bunch of it up there. It's a bunch of it up there.
interesting stuff. Hey,
Yeah,
more down to earth.
yeah. Talk to me.
I've complained repeatedly uh, on our podcast about the health system on Earth.
You have?
Yeah, I can see people starting to pay attention to us now, especially
Uh-huh.
that lady on that treadmill who times her treadmill usage with
That's right. Oh, right. That's right.
yeah,
We got a letter from a listener who said she
yeah.
she does her treadmill to the old bucks.
Yeah, and it's almost like she's running as fast as you can to get away from the old bucks, and
Yeah, she says
30
like
minutes gets a real exercise.
yeah, yeah. She says 30 minutes of a treadmill is the most boring thing on the planet, and it's just a little less boring with the bucks in your ear. So that's a good thing.
So anyhow, I had another run-in with the health
Yeah,
system
talk to me.
where a urologist wanted some numbers, and I really should have looked back and got the numbers of the last test, and I'm talking, of course, about a PSA test, which I now know the hard way is that is only allowed once a year.
Uh-huh. That's right.
It's only allowed once a year, and since I wasn't getting the kind of cooperation with the primary care physician I thought I should have had on this issue, because they're swamped, I
Hmm.
said, well, okay, I'll just get another one, thinking that they would cover that. Well, they don't cover that, and that definitely put a pinch in my wallet. So I went ahead and bit the bullet, and I'll have to pay for that. But the urologist who wanted that number did not get it. So I had a meeting with him and he castigated me for not having that with me. So why don't you just go get a hard copy? But I'm thinking they're working together, right? I'm
Of
thinking they're going
course.
to
Yeah.
send that over there,
Hmm.
but they didn't.
But they
Now,
didn't.
so now this is how this story ends. I'm angered. I'm just this, the amount of time I'm investing, this mileage, hours, whatever. So I said to myself, I'm going to go get that number. Then I said, wait a minute, these folks have a portal, and I'm going to try to write to them. So
Hmm.
I wrote in the portal, or I opened their portal. I looked at my current numbers, and I picked a number that I thought was a PSA number.
Oh, wait a minute. That you thought was a pin.
Yeah, I said, this looks like the right number.
I
This
see a
should be a P.
tragedy coming
The
here.
numbers, the letters didn't correspond with that, but I said, okay, I said, this must be the test. So I write to the primary care physician and I said, look, and since this all happened, you folks didn't get this over to me. I'm going to send this number to my urologist because I hope I'm right. And if not, then I'll come for a hard copy. I wrote some other things that a little
So
sarcasm in
you,
that too.
uh-huh. I'm
But
shocked. I'm
somebody
shocked.
read that back. They called me reasonably quickly. Somebody was reading that and they wrote
Uh-huh.
back and said, that's not a PSA number. That's a thyroid number.
Oh.
So I had already then I got on the urologist portal, which is more passwords and all that stuff. So,
Hmm.
and this consumed about an hour and a half of my morning time. So I get on that and I'm writing this number down when I get the call from the primary care physician that says that is not a PSA number. So I look at my message to the urologist and I said, whoa, but I look like a fool. So,
Good thing you didn't give him your
yeah.
blood pressure.
So one of the nurses there who read that, she said, no, this is your number. And then I recrafted my letter to the urologist and hoped that he accepted it because it wasn't coming from them, that he would accept my the number I'm giving him saying that I verified this with a primary care physician. I mean, the bottom line is I spent a lot of work doing this, and I almost made a big mistake, which it would have probably taken a while to correct because they wouldn't know what that meant. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're not into this portal thing now, if you're not, you know, talking to them electronic, and I know a lot of people can't even use a cell phone, you really can fall behind on what's going on. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's like, so all the listeners out there, you better up your skill level. And when they say communicate with a portal, go ahead and try to do it because they're not going to pick up the phone. You can't get an answer. I mean, I could have called and say, hey, what's my PSA number? And they would have told me, They just, you
Mm-hmm.
leave a message, 48 hours later, they may call you back or say, come and get it. So
Yeah.
this is the old buck, uh, you know,
Rant.
way of life now. We're going to have to do this if you want
Yeah.
to give any idea what the medical thing feels going on. So it was about, all in all, I think there was probably about a $220 wasted effort in my view. It was, the numbers weren't dangerous. Um, all the effort I went in, and I hate those blood tests. I almost faint every time they stick a needle in my arm. So
You didn't lie on the floor or anything.
no, I didn't have to this time, and they got me in on time. Uh, but we did have some fun in the waiting room again. There was a little bit of other people who came in on, you know, walk in people, and there was some banter which I participated in. You know,
Oh, well, let
so
me tell
and
you my portal story.
you have a
I've got a
portal.
portal story. Yeah.
Very interesting.
You know, I got my, a lung guy down here.
Hmm.
So after the first appointment, he said, well, okay, you need to, I got an email from him and say, you need to, sign on to our portal, which was, it's actually linked to the hospital portal. So should have been pretty easy to do. And then he said, you know, sign in with your same email, and password will either be last four digits of your social, or the digits of your birthday, or one other thing. Okay. And I kept trying and trying all those things. Didn't work, didn't work, didn't work. Of course, then you try to call in. It's the
Forget it.
same thing.
Yeah,
Good
forget it.
luck. Good luck. And I'm leaving messages, leaving messages. Nobody's getting back to me. Finally, I got not a receptionist. I wasn't the receptionist, but it was a scheduler there. And I explained my problem to her, and she says, well, that's the IT person. She says, a lot of people have trouble with that. And I said, well, you know, I got none of these options are working. She said, well, she says, try 1, 2, 3, 4. And she said, and, she said, I'll transfer you over to there, to the IT person. And by the time the IT person picked up the phone, 1, 2, 3, 4 had worked. Okay. All these other things didn't work. So I said to the IT people, well, sorry to bother you, but I was having trouble getting in. And I said, you know, the girl gave me 1, 2, 3, 4. Unfortunately, it worked. And she says, oh, you know what? Nobody uses that portal. Nobody can get in
Oh,
there.
we don't monitor that.
It was
Why
her
do you?
portal. Yeah. Oh, nobody uses that.
So it's just a way of life now, and it looks like it's going to be for about everything. So, by the way, everybody, we had a lovely little coffee rendezvous at a different Starbucks. Uh, Actually,
We
it was just a
did.
Starbucks along the way the other day. We thought we were not going to get into the place. It turned out it was near a restaurant, and it wasn't in the Starbucks. Everybody was waiting to get in the restaurant. So we had a nice little place to sit down. We chatted. It's always fun. We laugh and carry on for a while until we finish our cold brew, then we're on our way. But my thoughts on how everybody copes with things. Everybody's got tricks that they use. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. And if you find a solution for something, the world may not know it. You know what I mean? If you find a way to get love bugs off of your car really, really easy, you may not necessarily tell anybody. But
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, we have the hundreds of people who listen to us are benefiting from our knowledge and our mistakes. So
We've
what
made them.
two interesting things happened to me recently, and one is you have a glass stove top. No, you don't have a glass stove
I
top, do
do
you?
not. I do
Okay.
not.
Well, those folks that do have a glass electric stovetop, there's a lot of different cleaners that you can use for that. And I tried all the abrasive stuff and I tried the magic sponges. So I've used about everything on it because you burn a lot of stuff on the top of them stoves. So something that I found works relatively easy and quickly was a very common glass cleaner. The ones I use to use the car windows. It's the best glass cleaner.
You remember
It's
the name of it?
uh, I can get you the name of it.
Picky, picky, picky.
No, stand by 1 second. I'll get it for you.
Okay.
Put me on pause.
You're on pause.
Okay, I'm back.
All right. So what kind of glass cleaner is it?
This glass cleaner is called Spray Away, world's best glass cleaner, foaming action, ammonia-free, streak-free shine. And I think we get it at one of the local Walmarts. It works really well for windows, for car windows. It's the best, and I found it good for stovetops. So I thought I'd pass that on to anybody.
I just have one question though.
Hmm.
How do we get from Starbucks to a glass cleaner?
Well, we talk about things.
Puzzled.
We when we're in Starbucks, you know how we run the gamut.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we always talk about things that happen, things we've seen, done, Howard, this, that, and the other things, and that's a catalyst for it's a catalyst for all this conversation we have when we get there. So anyhow, I thought I'd pass that on, and another thing happened that I thought was really strange. I had done a favor for a guy, and occasionally I enjoy a good cigar.
Yes,
and
you
I
do.
I did a favor for a guy. And I was telling him that that's what I was going to do after I was done with the little project we were on. And he said, I have a cigar shop. So I said, what more can I do? Can I help you with anything else? So he
Can
said,
I be
yeah.
your cabana boy?
He said, check a couple fans out for me and that. So I re-rigged them and so on and so forth. So lo and behold, he shows up in the neighborhood the other day. And he said, I brought you a couple cigars. And I said, well, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is where it gets funny to me. And any cigar smoker out there may understand there are different sizes of cigars, and they go by a ring size. It's called a ring size. That's the diameter of the cigar. So he hands me, and I looked at these things, and I said, I have 30 is maybe the size of average man's finger. 50 would be bigger than that. A 60 ring is a pretty good sized cigar. These things must have been 100 ring. I mean, they were a little bit smaller. These cigars were a little bit smaller than the average water bottle. So anyhow, this thing is about the size of a water bottle. In essence, it's almost unsmokable. So I went from a good thing to a gift of cigars that were so big that I said, I don't even think I'm going to be able to smoke these things. So I thought that was interesting. It's funny if you're a cigar smoker. Are you still there?
I'm still here, but we seem to be having technical difficulties again. I'm wondering if the mothership is approaching again, kind of snarling our Wi-Fi. Dale? Uh-oh, now Dale's gone. It just might be time to call it an episode, folks. Topics we'll have to postpone include an AI beauty pageant, Sarasota Dolphins, and a special undercover report from VV1. And if you have any topics that you'd like us to cover, check out the 3 ways in the show notes that you can let us know that. So please talk to us and tell your friends about us. So until next time, this is Old Buck Dave saying thanks for listening. And if you see Dale out there, send him home. Bye-bye, folks.